Today's talk is about preventative health care, in particular parasite prevention. This is a good one. I spent a lot of time as a vet nurse talking to people about parasite prevention, and people do ask me all the time about, treating fleas and ticks and wormers and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of information. Actually, I'm going to try and not talk for 10 minutes, but I'm going to try and be quick and succinct, but I may fail in that regard because there's a lot of information to cover. Okay, so fleas and ticks. Personally, I don't treat Lulu for fleas and ticks. I feel like it's not necessary. I haven't seen a flea or a tick on Lulu for years, so why would I go and give her a monthly treatment to prevent something that isn't happening? I kind of think about it like kids and head lice. You don't preventatively treat your kid for head lice, but if they get head lice at school, everybody's treating the head lice real quick, real swiftly, to get on top of it. So if I found a tick or a flea on Lulu, I would 100% go and get her some treatment really quickly to get on top of it, because they can get out of hand. Flea infestations can get out of hand really quickly because they just thrive in the environment and just go bananas. But I do not give Lulu any preventative medication for fleas or ticks. I just don't think it's necessary. But again, this whole realm is kind of a choose your own adventure and choose the level of risk that you're comfortable with based on, weigh up the benefits. I think I shouldn't have gone then. It's like at the ring road where it says like one vehicle from each lane per green light, and maybe I wasn't allowed to go. Whoops. It always feels like a race, like everyone takes off together and races each other. Anyway, choose your own adventure, choose the level of risk that you're comfortable with. You are the pet parent. If you live in Queensland where there's paralysis ticks, then it's probably a good idea to prevent ticks. But we live in Victoria. I just, in NT we saw a lot more fleas and ticks, so it was probably a bit more necessary. But here, for Lulu, I just don't see it, and so I don't treat for it. I don't see the need. Like some of these new sort of all-in-one flea, tick, yada yada yada, worms, everything. I feel like there's just too much going on. The pharmaceutical companies have tried to make a product that just treats everything, because in the veterinary industry it's like, okay, well you can use Sentinel for heartworm, and you can use Interceptor for this, and then you can use Frontline for fleas and ticks. Over the years there's just so many different sort of options, but not one product did everything, so you had to recommend multiple products to cover everything. And then a wormer did this worm but not that worm, so you also, if you had to do an extra wormer for this, and blah 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 blah, and it was really complicated. So over the years the pharmaceutical companies have been like, all right, well what we need to do is we need one product that does everything. So now you've got your Simparicas and your NexGard Spectra, and they do fleas, ticks, worms, heartworm, everything. They've got all these active ingredients in them, and what you might find if you do a bit of research is that there's also some pretty terrible side effects that happen. And it's not to say that it will happen to your dog, and they might say, oh, the risks are so low, but if your dog's that 1 in 1,000 or 1,000,000 that gets horrible seizures from having a bloody NexGard, then it's common enough to not want to give it, isn't it? So again, it's choose your own adventure. Do research on these products and the products that you choose to use, because nothing is without side effect, really. So is the benefit of giving that product worth the risk of giving that product? And if your dog doesn't have any fleas or ticks, then for me that's a no. So that's fleas and ticks, but again, it's location based, and if you're in an area with paralysis ticks, then you probably should have some kind of monthly prevention. But I've heard too many horror stories about some horrible side effects for those new ones that apparently do everything. I just think they shove way too many active ingredients natural product that when used in appropriate amounts certainly don't hurt, so why not give it a go. Intestinal worms, I do think you should treat for. Intestinal worming tablets don't prevent worms like your monthly flea and tick preventatives are supposed to prevent a dog from getting an infestation. Where a worming tablet doesn't prevent worms, it simply kills any worms that might be there already. So the reason we worm with a certain amount of frequency is to stop that worm burden from getting too heavy and making the dog sick. So we worm puppies more regularly because they can fall ill from a smaller worm burden than an adult dog. An adult dog take a pretty significant worm burden to make them unwell. So I give Lulu an intestinal wormer when I remember, maybe twice a year or something, when I go to the vet and I'm like, oh, she hasn't had a wormer for a while. So that's not maybe the best advice, but I think adult dogs every 3 to 6 months is fine for an intestinal wormer, because all you're doing is potentially killing any worms in their guts that are already there, which stops the worm burden from becoming too heavy and making them ill. Puppies, your call, but we worm with more frequency so they don't get a big worm burden in their tummy. So intestinal worming, yes. Heartworm, I stopped treating Lulu for heartworm a long time ago, and again, the risk is pretty low, and your vet will tell you to treat for heartworm because Lulu could get heartworm maybe, but I think it's unlikely, so I'm not treating her for it, and that's my choice. Again, if you're in an area where heartworm is more common, you might choose to treat for heartworm, but as a vet nurse, I worked for 10 years as a vet nurse and I never once saw a positive heartworm case ever. So, and maybe that's because everyone's really good at treating for heartworm, so yay. But again, do some research, choose your own adventure, choose the level of risk that you're comfortable with. I'm happy with choosing the risk to not treat Lulu for heartworm. And if one day she got heartworm, that's going to be on me, isn't it, that I didn't treat for something to prevent it. So vaccinations, I am so pro vaccinations, so don't freak out, I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all. Lulu's had all vaccinations all throughout her life, but none recently. She had multiple 3-yearly vaccines as an adult, which treat for parvo, distemper, and hepatitis. Haven't had her one recently. Every time I go to the vet, they're like, do you want to vaccinate her? And I'm like, nah. She's never going to go into boarding or anything. If she did need to, I'd go get her a quick intranasal kennel cough vaccination so she could, but again, the risk is low. What I should do is get her teeter tested and check that she still has this via email and hit me up if you have any other